We're still here.
It's basically, well, I wanted to call it, we're still fucking here. Since most of us...
Sounds like my show.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's a little bit of my show, too. So basically, this panel consists of people that were based at the first PodCamp Pittsburgh, already creating content, or I think in you were right after the first PodCamp. Let me just go down the line and introduce everybody. I'm Mike Sorg. I do this crazy experiment. We started with the Wrestling Mayhem show almost 5 years ago, as of January. We're still doing it. We moved from an audio podcast to a video podcast at the beginning of the year. And now I do a music show and a tech show. And Chachi doing his video show and my own blog and everything. I also do, day job is doing safety training videos, do some podcasts from other nonprofits and some other projects coming up personally. And Will is actually the original partner on the Wrestling Mayhem show. Don't let Chachi lie to you. So, got Hutch, tell about your show a little bit.
My name's Hutch Jr., and I basically started being interested in radio in the 70s. I used to set up a little table with a cassette deck, and we'd sit there and spin 45s, but to bring it up to date, in 2006, I started my show, which is Bird's Eye View. And basically what it was a show that I did with my high school age son, pretty much chronicling his high school football career. And then that morphed, and it ended up being a show that's about all things Pittsburgh. All right, it's very locally oriented. It's explicit at times because we don't delete the expletives. But the reason that I'm still here, one of the reasons, and I'm also in the Army Reserve right now. And in 2006, I got orders sending me to Iraq in 2007, and I had to make a decision because if I would have stopped doing the show, it would have died. But instead what I did is I took some equipment with me. I was able to do that, and I actually did shows 19 to 40 from Iraq, from either Fort Bragg or Iraq or when I was home on leave. So basically, that kept my show alive. I'm going strong. Like I said, I've been doing it since October of 06, and it's like a Yinzer show. I'll turn it over to Father Spoon.
Yinzer show. That's great. My name is Douglas Firde. Most people know me as the Most Reverend Father Spoon from ShouldIDrinkThat.com. I have a craft beer show. I get to drink beer and talk about it, and that's the best way to explain what we do. We do have an audio podcast. We do also do some video too. Most of the shows will follow around some kind of theme. For episode 66, it was based around a brewery that has clown shoes as their theme. We got 3 beers from their brewery. We sampled their beers. We tell you if we like them, if we don't like them. If we both don't like a beer, I do have a co-host also, by the way, who couldn't be here today. If we both don't like a beer, we chug it. Nothing is ever drain-worthy. Someone took the time to make that craft beer. You should give them the respect to drink it, even if it is god-awful. We do have some videos. Most of the videos are submissions that fans have given us to make for them. The big thing that we have is called the Chug Challenge. Send us a beer that is completely awful or a gimmick. We'll chug it for you. We'll let you know what happens when you do chug it. The popular one that we had was the Chelada, which I don't know if anyone's had that. It's Bud Light, tomato juice, and clam juice mixed together. Yeah, it was about that good.
You got to tell them about the 120 too.
But there's another story behind that, though. Along with chugging that, I had to listen to Culture Club the entire time. I think the music was worse than the beer, though. One of the most popular things one of the things that we're most popular for is, has anyone ever heard of the Dogfish Head 120-minute IPA? It's about 20% alcohol. I chugged one of those on an empty stomach, dressed as a priest.
What's the search term?
On Good Friday. And I'm Roman Catholic, so I'm going straight to hell.
What's the search term?
Just do one. It's like 7 minutes long.
I just want to see the setup.
Oh, okay. Just do DFH 120 chug. Should be on
This is a good story. We've talked about this a few
The
times before.
second one.
There we go. There's the setup. What was it, Doc Hammer?
Oh, no. So we had a paramedic also that was on here. His name was Dick Hammer.
Dick Hammer. That's right. There you go.
And he actually is a real paramedic. He's a friend of ours that we called and said, hey, we're doing this video if you want to stop over. And he shows up in his full gear, which we didn't expect. There's this is the power of the internet. You have to embellish. And this is what really put Should I Drink That out there. We did this as a joke. We figured the highest beer out there, let's just do this. No one else is doing extreme beers. So right here is a Blood Pact that we had hooked up to my hand, which if you know anything about medical stuff, that's not supposed to happen like this. Plus I had a shaved head, which also kind of added to the insult. But what happened is, I'm standing right in front of you. Beer lovers hated us. They thought this was the worst thing that could happen to craft beer. And this is where it turned bad publicity into good publicity because people started talking about us. We had this little rinky-dink podcast that maybe 20, 30 people were listening to. Next thing we know, 20,000 downloads later of this video. We're in Draft Magazine, we're in Pittsburgh Magazine, we're on G4 Tech TV, we've been on DVE, KDKA, we've been all over the place.
Nice.
Because of this. A bald-headed guy dressed as a priest chugging a beer. The cool thing with this, though, is we did get some validation to it. Dogfish Head did contact us. As soon as I saw that email come in, I'm thinking, we're dead. This is it. They're going to crucify us. The brewery loved this video. They thought it was the coolest thing because somebody chugged one. Not just that we chugged their beers, but we made a big theatric release about it. It's 7 minutes long, people. The chug takes 6 seconds.
It's far too long for a
So there's 7 minutes and 3 seconds of me BSing the entire, everything else that's going on. He's taking my blood pressure.
Is the afterwards on this video?
The afterwards is at the end of it.
Okay,
It's towards the very
This
end.
is the greatest stuff. I'm sorry, I just love this story. It has nothing to do with our topic.
So what happens in the end, this is just a digital camera that we had sitting around. I start tripping, basically. 20% alcohol hitting your bloodstream at once on an empty stomach. And like I said, it was Good Friday, so I think somebody was getting back at me. My hands are going like this. I don't know what's going on. But we decided to throw that in at the very end of the video, and people loved it. They're like, that was fake, that was staged. It's 100%. Oh, wow. So this is a prime example of no matter what you make, you don't know what's going to hit big. You don't know what people are going to pick up on. Like I said, it started out, we got thrashed in Beer Advocate and Rate Beer forums saying these guys need to quit their day jobs, which I ended up getting laid off, so I guess the joke was on me. But this was huge for us. This sent us out into the mainstream media. People were picking up on this all over the place. And when G4 Tech TV called, I about passed out. Oh my God, somebody that's legit in the tech industry wants to talk to us about it. And it was because we had so much success with this video. That was just a camera on a tripod sitting in my buddy's living room. And that's all it was. The lighting we had, I think, was a floodlight from Home Depot. It didn't really cost us anything. And we just put it on YouTube to see what happens. But this was also 2007. So if you're going to bash me now, remember, the video's like I was 4 years old. I've heard everything already. I had one guy saying that he wished that I would die of cirrhosis, whatever. He hopes my liver and everything else fails. But that did push us into the limelight where, click on the, or you can scroll down a little bit. That rate. Episode 65, we got to meet Zane Lamprey, who's the host of one of the biggest drinking shows in the world. His people contacted us and said, Zane wants to meet you. He wants to hang out with you. He wants to drink beers with you before his show, which he had a comedy tour that was coming through Pittsburgh. So he said, all right, we'll get him drunk. And we did. And his entire staff that was with him, too. We showed up with a couple of cases of beer and said, okay, let's sit down and talk. But he sat down and talked beer with us, which was really cool. We would never have had this exposure if it wasn't for that one video. So that goes to show that one thing you could create can send you out. And people everywhere will be able to see this. I'm babbling, so go ahead.
An interesting story is, I actually met the show. I didn't meet the people yet, but I actually searched for craft beer. I can't remember exactly what I searched for, but I found their show when I was overseas. And I started listening to it, and I saw that video, and I was listening to you had some other interesting shows at the time. But then I came back, and I got to actually meet them. You know, Brad's been on our show, and you talked about some beers of mine on your show. And the interaction this is about we're still here, and things like that make you keep doing it, because unless you get real big, I think your term was, it's a deficit podcast.
We are a deficit podcast. We make no money at this.
No.
Don't go into this trying to make money. If you have a really great gimmick, you could probably make some advertising dollars. But if you're going to make a career on this, talk to Leo Laporte, because that guy's got a tricked out studio in his house. I mean, the studio that we have set up for our audio show, 2 microphones, a mixer, and a laptop on a kitchen table in a trailer. That's all we are.
When we started, we were a computer. I had a splitter, and we had a bunch of like $10 PC microphones.
Stand mics.
We just recently reposted like our first 36 episodes because they got taken down with SwitchPod when they got bought by Libsyn, and I don't know what. I guess we got officially got canceled or something. But it's just, you go back and listen. It's such horrible quality, but it's funny because it was just a bunch of guys getting together. Which kind of brings me to the other topic. I think. One of the things for longevity, I think all of us pick, is your topic. Is it something you're passionate about? I know for me, every Tuesday night, it's like, I'm like trying to get through work and get to that Tuesday night, and it's like, okay, I got to do all this for the shows I do. But as soon as I get in it and I get into the conversations, I love talking about wrestling. I love talking about technology with Rob, who just came in the room. Awesomecast.com. I love talking about music and stuff. So the Tuesday night flies by. I love it, regardless of anything else, and it gets me through it. When it's like, God, I don't want to do a show this week because I just don't have the energy, but it just comes back through. Can you guys talk about a little bit about inception of the show? I know, Will. We started the show because we were at a party and talked about wrestling.
We would hang out at parties and get drunk and spend the whole night talking about wrestling. And you were doing a live cast after Raw every Monday, and I was
we were doing streaming radio at the time for an old site of mine, Western PA, Douglas.com. Chachi was actually helping me with that at the time.
Right. And then I was like, well, hey, why don't we take what we're doing here and put it on the radio? And then we bounced around a little bit, but settled on Tuesday nights. And we basically took what we would do at parties, and we still do it every Tuesday night. We just bring more people on and put a video camera in front of us.
Exactly.
So.
And so, can you talk a little bit about Inception?
My show, what happened to me was I was actually part of the people, the so-called Steeler Nation, that had to leave Pittsburgh in the early 1980s because of the employment situation. So I was basically away until 2000. I got to finally move back to Pittsburgh in 2000. I grew up here, and then I left and came back so many years later. And the whole time I was out there, I missed the place. So I started out doing my show about my son and his football antics, but you can't fill up a whole hour with that. So I started thinking about it, and I said, you know what? I want to make a show that I can send out on the internet that people that are like me, that are living in Minnesota, but they have yins or blood running through their veins, they can get a little bit of home. So I'd get on there and I'd put some Pittsburghese and some different things that are going on in the city, and we'd ramp up the accents a little bit, and we'd just have fun with the city and some of our idiosyncrasies, and it went on from there. But that's how it started basically for me.
Well, I like to drink beer. That's what happened is my co-host Brad, or we call him Sick Puppy. Because really, do you want to listen to Doug and Brad, or do you want to listen to Father Spoon and Sick Puppy talk about beer?
I mean, look at that guy.
Yeah, look at the beautiful face that he had. Well, usually it's a handlebar mustache going on, but I think he grew it in for that picture. When we got started, we were really big into craft beers. He was a home brewer, and I was just getting into craft beers. I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, and we didn't have really craft beer up there. We had Erie Brewing, and that was about it. So my exposure to beer was Erie Brewing and Bud Coors Miller, which now I can see why there's so many issues when I was a little kid. Brad and I worked together, or Sick Puppy and I worked together for about 10 years in the tech business. And we would always go out to some of the craft beer bars around Pittsburgh. We went to the Foundry Ale Works, which is now deceased. And we would hang out there a lot, and he would start teaching me about beer. And then in late 2005, we found out about this thing called podcasting. And I have an audio-video background, and he has a beer background. So he said, let's give it a shot. Whatever. If 10 people listen, fantastic. If not, we really don't care. We just want to drink good beer and talk about it and hopefully educate 2 or 3 people in the process. And we started out with a webcam on a laptop. The audio is absolutely horrible. It crackles. I don't think we had any intro music at the time, which we do now. And it's just the 2 of us drinking like 5 Mexican beers. We started on Cinco de Mayo, the Mexican drinking holiday, because we figured if we're going to do it, let's just do it with a blast. We drank 5 Mexican beers, which were god-awful. We drank a bottle of tequila, which was a stupid idea. And then he tried to chug, and this is what started the whole chugging thing, is he tried to chug a 7-year-old Brahma, which was in his parents' attic for, it was for about 7 years with the heat off and on. So you can imagine what it was like when it poured. It was like a lava lamp going into a glass. Now from there, that's our anniversary show. Yeah. So it's from there. I mean, the show just started to pick up. We came up with different themes. The main thing is you want to have fun with your show, and that's the reason why it's been able to go on for 5 years. Is we have a blast doing these shows. We do carry an explicit tag because when you are drinking, you're gonna swear. It happens. If you say "but," I think on YouTube or on iTunes, you get a tag on you. So we figured, well, let's earn this tag if we're gonna do it. Sometimes we swear like sailors, but it's all in good taste. We've kind of mellowed that part out a little bit.
We've kind of collectively been deemed the dirty podcasters.
We're
pretty much.
Since we, yeah.
So. we kind of have the same philosophy. If they're going to give us an explicit tag, we're going to earn the explicit tag.
Yeah, we push the limits.
Yeah, we make sure that you know this at the beginning of the show, too. So, I mean, if you do get offended, you know ahead of time. You can just turn us off if you don't like it. And, yeah, I mean, it's just grown from there. People know that we have that tag, but they still listen. Because you're getting genuine reviews of craft beer from us. We're not going to give you some marketing BS. If we don't like a beer, we're going to say, this is the crappiest beer we've ever had. Or, this is a great beer. As some people have said, I have beergasms on air, which is when I have this great craft beer, and it's like, oh my God, this is awesome. You'll find out. Because we don't drink the beers ahead of time and then think about what we're going to say. You get our honest reaction to it. And I think that's why people listen to us is, you're not going to get, the fruity aroma, the hops of this beer. No, we're not about that. Screw that. Beer is about having fun, not being a jerk about it. Or snobbish. Beer's to have fun.
That's kind of the philosophy we have, because a lot of things, especially with the wrestling community, there's a lot of people on there that just bitch about wrestling, no matter what's on there. It's like, I don't think somebody was used right, and his work rate's not great, and it's just over the head of anybody that's actually watching it for fun. And a lot of us have watched enough wrestling over the years, over the many, many years, that we see all that stuff too. But we try to take a step back, and was it fun? And sometimes I gotta kick a couple of guys in the pants for doing that on the show. That we brought in over the years, but still, it's we're fans of wrestling. We're not experts of wrestling, except for the time we put in.
We're sort of experts. We don't go down that alley because we want our podcast to appeal to the general populace. We don't want to appeal. It's a niche market that we're targeting in the first place. It's wrestling fans, and we don't want to further make that a niche market by isolating half of the wrestling fans and only talking to the people that know what's going on backstage and all this terminology.
Yeah. So, one thing, and you started noticing this as we talk to people. It seemed that everybody's watched wrestling at some point, and that's kind of helped our appeal. They were like, "Oh, I used to watch back when Stone Cold was big. I used to watch when Hulk Hogan and Iron Sheik." And a lot of times, been talking with us and seeing how we're so enthusiastic about it and not being dicks about it. I've had several people says, "Hey, I want to check out Monday Night Raw for the first time in like 3 years."
There's a definite stigma when it comes to wrestling and wrestling fans, and we try to move beyond that. We live up to that stigma sometimes. We're violent on the show and we're very vulgar, but
less violent now that we're all on webcams and not in the same studio.
That's true. We can't fake sound effects of us hitting each other.
No,
but
that's fake.
Sometimes when we didn't feel like bleeding.
Wrestling's real, man.
Devastated now.
But yeah, and let's talk. You mentioned a little bit about changing things as we go. I think we should talk a little about like evolution of the show to kind of keep it fresh and move with the times. Again, we started as an audio show.
Live audio show.
Here, I was fortunate enough to be able to get a new MacBook here. I was able to run some software I've been meaning to called Boinks TV, which I'll be talking about tomorrow at the Video Podcasting 201. And we've gone to the point where the video has equaled the number of people downloading the audio that's been there for 5 years. So as far as monthly views and downloads and everything. And of course, we've changed our format. I don't know how many times. Like, just kind of like, let's try this. We started after we talked about pod safe music. We were like, you know what? We need breaks. We do this live. Let's throw some music in, and then turn it into just something to have edit points so I can deal with later for the video. And then eventually,
and also like set up interviews.
And to set up interviews and everything. And you know, it got to the point. Well, we have the music show. Let's just split this off. But it's. And then, of course, everybody. It used to be everybody was in a studio, around a microphone or a couple, and that was it. And we had a live video stream just for the live people. And now it's turned into...
We had like one webcam.
Yeah, one webcam. They're like, hey, guys, you know, we're on Block TV, and this is like 15 frames a second. And it's turned into this stuff. You know, talk about a little bit of how you know, even you guys, you know, shows have changed over the years.
Mine certainly evolved. Like I said, it started out with my son and I, and he was in high school. He was living in the city, and then he moved on and started playing at the college level out of state. So I had to shift, and you know, I couldn't talk about his antics if he wasn't there. I could a little bit, but I basically had a lot of different co-hosts onto the show and branched out into a couple different areas. I talk about food a lot, and you actually had mentioned about, wow, you ought to do a food segment. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
I did that. You know, I started, you know, I like food a lot. And
I sit there at work, and he's talking about like gyros he had out in 51. I'm like, oh god, it's 3 o'clock, and this is horrible. I'm like, you need to do like a Food Network style show or something.
And I'm not professional. I just, you know, my direction, my connection with food is my knife and fork. You know, so I go out, if I eat at a good place or a bad place, I'll talk about that. I probably don't know whether it's good or not for the stats, but I talk about politics sometimes too. I mean,
it gets you the feedback.
Right, and people, I love that. Negative or positive, it doesn't matter. I say what I say, and that's just how I roll. But now I have a co-host, a pretty regular co-host. Those of you that have listened know about Shell. I have a friend of the family's comes over, and almost religiously on Friday nights, usually 3 times a month, because I said I'm in the reserves, and I don't do a show before I have to go do my training or whatever. So we'll do that, or, you know, when something like this comes up, we might do one tonight, because I didn't do one this week. I tried to do one when I was in New Jersey, but it didn't turn out so well. But the master sergeant that was with me was a little under the weather. But the videos, I noticed the same thing. I've put out a few videos, and they've equaled the audio numbers as far as downloads. So that's always good. But I don't know what the show is going to be like in 2 years. I'm hoping it's still there. I'm counting on it being there. I've upgraded my studio a little bit over the years. I started also with a little, not a webcam, but the USB mic and real terrible audio. And I can say when I was in Fort Bragg, before I shipped overseas, I did a show with 3 guys with a laptop, with just a laptop microphone, sitting on the fender of a Humvee out in the woods. And that cooling fan coming on and off will get you. But I didn't want the show to die, and I had content. And that's the good thing about my show, is that I have content every day, just by getting up and going outside and watching it. There's some funny stuff going on out there, and I just have a little, I use the iPhone now. I use the notes, and when I see something ridiculous, I just put it in the notes for the show, and then before the show, I look at all those notes, and glad I wrote it down.
That's another important thing. If you're going to start a podcast with any longevity whatsoever, all of our topics are renewable resources. People are always making beer. People
Absolutely,
are always
they're
living in
making beer.
Pittsburgh, and there's new wrestling every week. So.
Yeah, if you're thinking about doing a podcast, and we're going to cover this at 1 o'clock, the most important thing you can do, you got to love it, and you got to be passionate about it, like Mike said. But it's got to be something, you don't want to paint yourself in a box, because one of the reasons for this session is, I would say 90%, and maybe I'm wrong, you guys have other statistics, I have no statistics to back this up, but I know I've searched for a certain topic, podcasts on a certain topic, and 90% of the podcasts you'll see posted did their last show in 2007. Or, you know what I mean? They're gone already. and it's because people paint themselves into a corner, or they pick a subject. I mean, if you want to do a podcast about something like the Steelers, that's great. But understand that 100 other people are doing the same thing. You know, so your listeners, people can only download so many.
And you have a long off season too.
Yeah.
That's one thing you have to definitely keep in mind. What was the question again? Jeez.
I don't know.
How have you evolved?
How we've evolved. I want to make sure very much. How we've evolved. When we started out, like I had said, we had a webcam and a laptop was pretty much our equipment. And you can start out podcasting really inexpensively. Most laptops now have the webcam and the mic built into it. So you really just need your machine to do everything.
I use actually the one camera, like the camera that's me in the studio is this camera right here, which the eyesights are really damn good.
There's a Justin TV app for the iPhone. You can just
you stream too. You can just be like, hey, I'm here at PodCamp.
Which when we got started, that was not even thinkable.
Oh yeah,
going to
exactly.
be a possibility of stuff that's going to happen. From there, wow, we went out and bought professional recording equipment. I shouldn't say professional, but we have a mixer that we use now. We also have we have 3 microphones, 2 that we use in studio. The third one's for when we're on the road. And from there, I don't think the quality's really gotten that much different from about episode. We're up to 66 episodes now. And the last 40 or so, the quality's been pretty much the same for audio-wise, but the content's gotten better. We've gotten better at planning interviews with people, with actually breweries, and with a lot of beer people getting a hold of us to say, we want to talk about our events coming up. We go to a lot, like with Steel City Bigport, for instance, we recorded there for 8 hours. From like 12 o'clock till, I think, 8 o'clock at night. We have so much content that we really don't know what we're going to do with it. We have to get that into an hour show. It sounds like fun, but we really didn't get to drink a lot. We spent most of our time talking. So the big thing for us is we now have that avenue where people are coming to us for interviews. We don't have to go out and ask for them anymore. Sometimes we do with the bigger guys. But people will say, hey, we've got this beer fest coming up. Will you talk about it for us? We've got this new line of products. Will you guys review it and let us know what you think, if it's good or if it's bad. Like I said, we're genuine with our opinions, so we tell them up front, if we don't like it, we're going to bash it. And only one company ever told us to quit our day jobs and to get off the internet. Butternuts. But
Had to throw that in there.
yeah, I had to throw I fucking hate butternuts. But our show has evolved to it's getting to the point where it's this beast, and we don't know what to do with. And one of the decisions that we had made recently, for those of you who don't know, I have an 18-month-old son, and I have a kid on the way. And that's really going to cut into my beer drinking time, to craft beer time, to everything that we do. And I told my co-host, what are we going to do about this? So we're kind of changing our formats a little bit. One of the good things with evolving is we're going to try to see what works and what doesn't work. For a couple months there, I have to be on standby in case my wife has this kid. So we're going to do solo beer reviews. We're probably going to toy around with video. Take a lot of inspiration from the wrestling guys with how they've been so successful with video. We also went out and I hate pimping products because it sounds like I have something to do with them, but I don't. The Kodak ZI8 or Z8i, I believe is the model number. It's this little flip cam. It's about the size of my BlackBerry. Here we go. You see this? Excuse me, internet people.
Show and tell.
This is the greatest thing you could get. Internet people. All right. This is the greatest thing you could get for your podcast if you're going to do video. The reason the HD on this is kick-ass. And it's how much did you pay? It was like one something?
Yeah, it's like 150 or something.
It bounces between 120 and 150 on Amazon. It does 1080. Is it 1080p? Read the front of that.
That's better than the flip.
It does 1080p,
yeah.
but I prefer the 60 frames a second, 720.
Yeah, you could also scale it down. If you have I use a 4-meg card of mine, I can get about 30 minutes of video on there. I went around to a brewery to do a tour with one of these things. By far the best video I've ever shot. The onboard, wow, I'm really geeking out on this. The onboard mic, the mic on this thing is incredible. It's almost like you're wearing a lapel mic in most cases. You have to be careful though with background noise and everything. But for like the everyday person to go around, this is probably one of the best things you could buy.
Does it have a tripod mount?
Yeah, there's I like this. There's a tripod mount on it that you could use. Also, I don't want to break your phone either. That's okay. Plug it in USB right into your laptop. So if you're mobile, you can plug it right in. And then also, it's got HDMI out, so you can plug it into any of your big TVs. And
Or I think
And it has a mic in.
that was the other thing.
The flip does not have a mic in.
Yes, this has a mic in, so you could plug a microphone. You could get like your lapel mic, or if you're doing an interview, and plug it into this.
Which one is that, though?
ZI8?
Kodak ZI8.
ZI8, yeah. I always get the letters and numbers and stuff. But if you get a chance, check out this product. I wish I could get kickback from pimping this thing. I know 4 other people that have used this. If you go to mylifeisafoodie.com, Phil, who does he does this thing called Dude Food, which basically teaches guys how to cook, and women too, how to cook like really good food that's inexpensive, like chicken wings and potato skins. He uses this camera. Unbelievable video he's gotten from this thing. We've also done some other beer reviews, which I don't think we have on our site. Sick Puppy did a couple beer reviews, and he's also reviewed a fruit called durian fruit with this camera. Outside, with his neighbor cutting the grass, was better than what we could ever shoot indoors. So, get a chance. Now that I'm done pimping Kodak. I don't want to throw your camera across. There you go, Kodak. I want $5 for it.
If you get kickback, hook me up, too.
Yeah, that's to do with your camera. But it's stuff like that that the reason why our show's evolved is because technology's gotten inexpensive now. You can get really great quality that even 2 years ago was unthinkable. And now we're shooting it. We're going to be shooting in HD after the kick comes. But yeah, we'll be shooting in HD. The sound quality is unreal. We're going to make some incredible videos, and anybody can do it. That's the cool thing.
One other big change we've made from our show, like Sorg said, we started out, just all in one room, huddled around a tiny little mic, and now we branched out. We have like 4 regular hosts. Me and Sorg, we live in and around the Pittsburgh area, and then we have Mad Mike, who lives in the Bronx in New York, and we have WrestleFan, who lives in Texas. Around Corpus Christi, yeah. And we accomplished that.
Last I knew, he's in the chat room right now.
Yeah. And if you were showing the video earlier, like we can split screen. We use the new Skype beta, and all of us can get.
The only
in
thing is, everybody has to be on a PC. That's why I have a little more trouble with the Awesome Cast, because a lot of the people that we have on are Macs. And we've also been trying to cycle through hosts because I kind of wanted it to be more of a roundtable discussion. So we've had people that are in the chat rooms every week. We get like 10 to 15 people weekly. If we have, somebody on that really gets out there, they may be a little bit higher. But we're just keeping it fresh and keeping new conversations because, you get the same guys loving or complaining the same things every week, except for us since we're the main co-host. And we try to mix it up. Except for whenever I bring up TNA to this guy.
Don't watch it. Don't even listen.
See, there you go. Actually, this is bad because there's only 2 of you guys on here. Let me see. We actually we tried the new beta that's supposed to do 10 people. That didn't work out so well. I need newer backup.
It's very, very beta.
There's
when we wanted to have people on before, we were literally calling them on the phone and holding the phone on speakerphone up to a microphone. Which, I mean, it was very utilitarian.
Then you can kind of see in the background what's going on.
That's our owl.
My dad killed that with a baseball bat. True story.
Peter's going to sue your ass.
Mike from the Bronx.
I think Riz is in there now.
That's Riz. I'm down here somewhere.
What am I doing?
You're molesting an owl.
All right.
That's something that don't be afraid to be random.
Yeah.
One of the things I do is I have a Skype, a call-in line. So what we've done on the last few shows, we didn't do it the last couple, but before that, is my wife will get on Twitter and tweet that we're taking call-ins at the show. And some of you have called the show. And that breaks it up a little bit toward the end of the show. That gets interesting.
I think all of us have hotlines. You have a drunk dial line.
We took a cue from the...
we got that from you.
I have what's called the drunk dial hotline. The cool thing with this is you're out there, you've been drinking, you're having a good time. Now you want to call your ex and tell her how much you miss her. You want to call your boss and let him know what you think. Call us instead. It's using Google. And this is another cool thing too. We're using Google Voice, which if you set it on Do Not Disturb, it goes right to voicemail. So it's a free service. You get free voicemail, and it saves every single voicemail to an MP3. So you can incorporate it right into your show. Or if you have audio out on your laptop, you can plug it right into your mixer, or however you want to do it. I didn't think it would really take off as well as it did. Within the first weekend, we had over 100 calls,
Yeah.
Some from these guys
Yeah.
on Halloween.
What was it?
Very
Yeah, Halloween.
Halloween
We called you
was
like 3 or
awesome.
4 times.
I hate you,
Yeah.
Spoon. I love you, Spoon. Back and forth between the two.
You wouldn't believe what I'm wearing.
But actually, Mad Mike is one of our big callers right now,
Oh, yeah.
and he calls us Hammer from the Bronx.
Is he making bacon? He calls us, like, I'm making bacon right now, and TNA sucks, and there you go. It's like,
But it's a cool thing for you to use to get your fans involved with your show, because now they're going to hear their voice in your show. A lot of people geek out about that, and I think that's part of what's helped drive a lot of our subscription rates. At one point, we were averaging, I think the first year or so, we averaged, 20, like I said, 20 or 30 people. Now we're getting about 6,200 downloads per show, which amazes us that many people want to listen to two guys drink about beer and swear and talk about stuff in Pittsburgh. But it's been taken off, and we found out people like the drunk dials too, because they want to hear other people making fools of themselves.
yeah,
We also have another guy too that calls in and sings us songs. It's so I can't say his name right now because he didn't tell me if I could use it, but we'll call him Warman. He will call us with him and his buddies are loaded, and they'll say, "Hey, I'm drinking this great beer from Victory. I think this is what we think about. Oh, by the way, here's a song." And he busts out into some free verse song with his guitar about craft beer and just whatever. But it's that kind of thing that we love to hear and that our fans like to do because it's the interaction between the two. And I think that's what makes us last is we have the community going. It's not just, okay, I'm listening to these guys like the old style radio. You'd listen to a show and that's it. You wouldn't really get to talk to them unless you called into that, their radio hotline. With our shows, you can get a hold of us pretty much any time, and we'll reply to you. So you have that friendship that's starting to build from it.
For us, with the hotline, we've gotten reviews from shows. I'll see one guy that fills the 30 minutes and leaves like 3 messages and I have to figure out what to do with it. Work on that. If you're calling on these hotlines, please keep the message short, unless it's damn entertaining the whole way through.
Yeah, Sorg has to take all his messages and edit them down.
I appreciate it, but we've also had people at shows, at Comic Cons, get there. We actually had the Miz from WWE at a Comic Con, and somebody's like, "Hey, can you talk to my buddy?" And there you go. I actually got just hear the voicemails from last night.
No.
Colt Cabana and Tim Donst
Really?
are like, "Why the hell haven't I been on your show? I have a podcast."
Awesome.
They're big with Ring of Honor and Shikara, some lesser known vets.
We had Jim Cornette. He used to be a manager in WWE.
Jim Cornette told his staff off one time.
Yeah, he said, "You're not here, so fuck off." And then
Yeah. We had the Wrestlicious reps the one time.
Yeah.
This promotion, Wrestlicious, this horrible female thing is just really degrading, honestly, and horrible skits that look like porn intros. But they had this rap I'm so and so and I'm Wrestlicious. So everybody submitted their own on the phone, and we would play them on air.
We've always been very fan-centric, telling people, send us emails, we'll read them on the show, and now call in, we'll put you on the show, we'll have you as a guest host if you're, around often.
Yeah, I have a graduation process at this point.
Yeah.
It's because of you guys we started doing fan mail. It's when I was a guest on their show, and that's another big thing too is don't be afraid to have other people on your show, especially if we don't do wrestling, but if you do the same thing, bring other podcasts in, build your community around everything. They had me on, I think it was episode 70-something. And it was right after podcast.
Wow, that was a while ago.
Yeah,
You're back.
That was
You're
a
in the
long
neighborhood
time.
now.
I didn't have any hair at the time. When I did that video, I think actually is what started it. And I showed up, and then we were able to cross promote our shows, and that was one of the big things that started with us too. Is now we had wrestling fans that like craft beer wanted to find out more
There's
about
the
us.
keg you guys left us that got dented by Remedy's head.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was on your show twice. That's
Twice.
right.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Once when it was up in your room when you had the small.
Hutch has been on our show.
Actually, my brother and I, we're a little older than these guys. We came on the show and talked about Pie Trainer and studio wrestling. It was great. The old school wrestlers. And
What was it like to watch him play?
it was black and white. The fans in the back row were fake. Just go back and forth like this.
They still are.
Jumping Johnny DeFazio, but what was my point? I think Mad Mike even called my show, so that's the cross.
I think thankfully for us, I think we have a lot of crossover there because people like to drink beer in Pittsburgh and watch wrestling.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And most of us are Polish too because we eat pierogies and everything else that are out there.
so
Never be afraid to
open
try
up for
something new.
questions.
That's definitely one of the big things. Always experiment. This is your baby. Nobody else has input to the final product besides yourself. I mean, people can influence it, but if you don't want it out there, you don't have to put it out there.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons, I don't know if this is really what leads to us having, I guess we could call it successful podcast, there we go, is that, you know, we try new things, we listen to the fans, and we're passionate about it. It's great. I love craft beer, but I also do it because I love the geek factor of playing with audio. I could say, yeah, high school counselor, you said I wouldn't do anything, but now I got a radio show about craft beer.
One thing I think, too, universally, is we love feedback. So if you're out there listening to a show or whatever that you like, email them or call in or whatever. Communicate with them, because that's kind of what keeps me going sometimes.
Comments.
Oh, yeah.
Tell other people about it.
You know, I wanted to get rid of the show before PodCamp 3, and I almost did. And then I came to PodCamp and got this whole new slew of listeners of people that I met. And it just, I can't quit this. There's still people downloading, you know what I mean? So, and then it's just constantly, continuously gotten more and more. So,
our running joke is, I quit should I drink that every day. Because there's some days where I just absolutely hate it. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired of being in front of a microphone. Tired of drinking all this beer. Well, amazingly, I'm tired of drinking beer sometimes. But it does wear on you.
Yeah.
And you have to watch out
Yeah.
for burnout, which is the big thing, and which is why we're also kind of changing up our format, is because we can't keep doing what we're doing now when I have all these life-changing things going on. If you want your show to last, you need to realize you're going to evolve too as a person. Stuff's going to happen in your life. You'll get married, you have kids, you get divorced. Anything can happen, and you have to. If you want your show to continue, you have to be able to evolve around that or work around that.
That's a great thing about having a panel, is that if one of us is having a terrible day or an off night and we're not really picking it, someone else always picks up the slack. Like, if I'm not feeling really enthusiastic, I know Mad Mike is going to come in like a freight train, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Exactly. There's rare times when all of us feel like crap sometimes. Like, so, Raw was last night.
So wrestling happened.
And kind of to
That's an
the
age,
loving it and sticking with it. I actually did a show earlier this year with somebody. We were trying to do something with her, and it was more kind of music, popular radio music, and like Perez Hilton gossip stuff. We got like 9 episodes, and it just blew up on us because I just hated it so bad. I couldn't interact with it. And that was firsthand. I was like, okay, that's why I'm like, okay, tech show. I can talk about that every day. Music show, you know, and we're good. You know, it's a lot of work, but we're good because I like doing it. And again, yeah, I kind of have the quit the show syndrome about every Tuesday at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's still worth it at the end of the night. So
It does take a lot of prep work to get a show going. And I don't want to take away from your one-on-one class either. Don't know way too much. It does take a lot of prep work. It does take dedication to do it. I think that's why our shows have succeeded, is because we are dedicated to our crafts. Mine happens to be beer. Theirs is wrestling. Hutch loves everything about Pittsburgh. And that's the key thing. You have to make a commitment to this if you want it to last. You can't just put out audio and be like, okay, let it happen. I'm not going to do anything.
And make sure you have the
Kick
time
back.
for it too.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I made sure. I was like, okay, I can't do anything on Tuesdays. You know, that show. I don't think I've moved that time slot for 3 years.
Yeah.
And just this next month, I'm actually moving a couple because I got some stuff coming up. But that's not going to be a habit.
It's been 3 years. I mean, it's well earned.
I need a Tuesday off.
Yeah.
I mean, an hour-long show, that's not an hour of our time. That's many hours.
Yeah.
Our shows are generally 4 to 5 hours we record, and then we get it down to about an hour show.
Yeah, we're a little more loose.
We do anywhere from like 2.5 hours to an hour and a half.
Yeah, we're getting it down mostly because of our time frame and everything,
And also because he has a show both before and after.
So that keeps us from getting out there.
Yeah.
Well, I want to make sure did you have something you wanted to say?
Nothing in particular.
Okay, that's good. I just want to make sure if you guys have any questions, make sure if there's anything we didn't cover you guys want brought up.
Yeah, in post-production, how do you go about editing your show? I mean, does it take a long time?
For me, it does.
What's the process you guys have? Because I mean, we started on the podcast, and I think we have one person that's doing all the editing of the audio. What do you guys do? Like, can you give us some ideas?
For me, it's always been the worst thing for me is background noise because I just don't have set up. I realized recently I need to get a compressor if I want to up that because it's me sitting there. I take the audio, run a noise reducer. I run a compressor in Soundtrack Pro, And before, when it was audio, that was the show. You know, make sure it times out. Because we used to do just all the music live, and I just compressed the whole thing and put it out there. I'm like, it's 30, but the content's good, and people keep coming back to it. Now, since I do video, it's added. I take the video files out of Boinks TV, is the software I use currently, and clean the audio, resync it back up in Final Cut, and push it out in the different formats that I want. I make, since it's timely, Awesome Cast and Wrestling Mayhem show, I have a thing, I want it out that night. So I'm editing them right after the show, stay up to about 2 in the morning on a work night, and it gets done, and the audio gets right up there that night, video renders overnight, and it gets up there on Blip TV around noonish when I have a lunch break to put, make sure everything's cleaned up. That's my process.
I take mine. I usually don't do it the same night because there's usually drinking involved in my shows also.
Pittsburghers love to drink.
So what I'll do is I'll listen to the entire show after it's done, which is usually an hour, very close to an hour, and I'll sit down with a notebook and I'll take actual quotes from the show for my show notes. And then I'll edit out anything that I don't think is appropriate for the audience. Sometimes people say dumb things,
Sometimes names get in there.
Or a name will get put out there that I don't have permission to use. Mm-hmm. So I'll cut all that out, and I'll maybe insert some things. Now I got to go listen to the whole show again, because I'm not going to put it out there unless it's something that I want to be out there. So after that, it's basically just uploading it to Libsyn and putting the show notes in and adding the bonus content for BEV Gold on iTunes. That's the bonus app.
Do something similar for Wrestling Mayhem Show Gold on iTunes?
Yeah, WMS Gold, BEV Gold. I think you guys were talking about getting something together.
We're lazy.
But that's my process. But usually it's the next day or sometimes a couple days later, and depends how late the show ran.
Our show's a mess by the time we're done drinking and shutting everything off. And, it's similar to Hutch. As soon as we're done with the show, we usually keep the party going. We turn webcams on, we hang out. And so our show doesn't usually get touched until about a week or so later, or it could be a couple days later. It depends on our schedules. So I pretty much work from either 8 in the morning to about 6 at night, whereas my co-host has hours all over the place. He's putting a ton in. So what we do is, as soon as we're done, we record everything in Audacity. And we take that audio clip. He puts it into one of his Sony products. I forget which one it is. Sony Vegas. It's one of his Sony audio products. And he does all the editing. And then what happens is he gives it to me, and I'll put it into Adobe Sound Booth. And I adjust the audio levels. And I do any final edits that we have to do. The main reason for that is you can get burned out listening to your voice really fast. And that kind of keeps it fresh between the two of us. And then once we're done with that, I put the tags on it. I think it's MP3 Tagger is the software that I use. You could put your the album cover art on there. We use our logo for each of our episodes, and then all the tags and everything else we want for that. And then as I'm listening to that final edit, I'm writing down all the show notes that we're going to use. So I do everything kind of at once. We do it in like 2 stages, because you will get burned out listening to yourself. And honestly, I hate listening to myself talk.
I don't listen to the whole show until the week later, the morning of, to see if there's anything I need to address that night. But so we said something really stupid last week, which usually happens. But all my show notes are that night from memory. It's like, what the hell you talked about? So
just don't bog yourself down with one person doing it, because you'll drive yourself nuts. Unless your show is like 5 or 10 minutes and you're fine. But if it's an hour, try to get other people involved, because they might also pick up on something that you didn't hear on that.
Any other questions?
Comments?
Yeah. No, that's not this section anymore.
No more hitting.
No more hitting. We got that.
Some business cards up here.
We're all on Twitter and everything. If I'm at Sorgatron, I have some business cards if you want. You can hit any of us up if you have any comments or questions. Any help with what you're doing, we're available and we'll be around.
That's awesome.
Nintendo.
I got called out in the fan mail. What was he calling me out?
He said, do you have a Sega Saturn?
And
you
there's
pulled a
actually,
Sega Saturn.
I have a bunch of old systems right to the right of this that aren't hooked up. That's where I keep them. And I just I got Sega Saturn right here and pulled it up on screen. And called me out this week
I
about
have one of those
Nintendo.
Original Nintendo, yeah.
Yeah, I got like 2.
Do you have the power glove?
No, Chachi does.
I'll sell it to you for $1. I have mine at home.
I use one.
It's cool. It still works, I
I'll give you
think.
2.
There you go.
Give me $2.
I'll give you $2.
What's your Twitters?
Bird's Eye View. Don't forget to put the H
I'm,
in the G.
DJ Lunchbox.
We have two. We have our show account is SIDT for Should I Drink That? Because if you do or Should I Drink That, it's like really long, takes up all your characters. So go with that one. You'll be able to reach me through there. I have a personal one too. But,
All right.
Hope
At
you
Douglas
enjoyed
Firde.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to us ramble.
Should I drink that? Should I drink that? Remember that.